Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. I'm really interested in getting into your story. And before we do that, I want to ask you, 4 years ago, we were all wrapping our head around this pandemic. And
Yeah.
now that we've kind of come out, how did you survive the pandemic and how did it change you?
How did I survive the pandemic?
Yeah.
4 years ago is when I decided to open up my business. So for a lot of people, I understand there was, a great deal of struggle. I mean, it sucked for a lot of people in my family and my neighbors and all my friends. Everybody was impacted negatively. Um, as for myself, I ended up thriving through the pandemic. I know, people would hate to hear me say that, I guess. But no, it wasn't without drama how I landed where I am right now. And the pandemic is what kind of kickstarted it.
Yeah.
So I was working at Hasbro, and during that time, there was a lot of layoffs going on. So I was one of the few people, not one of the few, one of the many people that got laid off. Um, and feeling, I guess, disenfranchised from, the whole corporate life in itself, I decided to start my own business. And during the pandemic was when I discovered, this was such a major opportunity. So yeah, to answer your question and to make it a little bit shorter than than it really has to be, no, I ended up thriving through it. And that's only because, you know, the hand I was dealt, I was forced to play.
So
I'm
let's
sorry, I
get,
have my kid in my background.
which is awesome. You're totally fine. I love it. Kids and animals, I'm all for it. So let me let me ask you this. If you were in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids was curious as to what you do every day for a living, how would you answer them?
I don't know. I tell them that I play with arts, colors, um, you know, pictorials, and essentially the computer is my paintbrush. You know,
Okay.
that's essentially what I would tell them. And I don't know if kids or 3-year-old would ever, like, my parents still don't know what I do for a living.
Right. Yeah.
It's impossible for me to describe to them what it is I do for a living. A
Yeah.
3-year-old might actually understand it better.
Yeah.
And I guess to dummy it down a little, I'd say, hey, you know what, my life is just my work is basically a digital coloring book, and I'm in charge of placing everything there.
And they would love that. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Let's see, third grade. Third grade, I think I vocally and audibly had mentioned to my parents or my sisters, because my parents would know, to my sisters that I wanted to be a scientist.
Okay.
At, and yeah, that didn't turn out.
So how did you pivot? Tell me about your upbringing. Tell me where you were born and raised and how you did get into design and how this became your life.
Okay. So I had a lot of positive influences in my life. Um, but to start off from the very beginning, I was born in Cambodia. I'm a mixed culture of Cambodian, Vietnamese, and Chinese.
Okay.
My heritage goes so far back that I wouldn't be able to explain where I got all that from.
Yeah.
But I was born in Cambodia. Um, during that time, we were dealing with the Khmer Rouge, which was this massive war in Vietnam that leaked over to Cambodia, and that's when everything just turned to crap. So my family, um, I was probably I was probably just an infant at the time. So my mom, my dad, they had 4 kids in tow while we were trying to escape a war. Um, we ended up being refugees in Thailand. And that was when my mom had her fifth kid, my youngest brother, my younger brother, and the youngest of the family. And then we ended up being refugees in America. We ended up staying in Lowell, Massachusetts. I don't know if you're very familiar with it, but
Yeah.
um, It's the number two most populated Asian city in
Okay.
America, second to Long Beach. So in a way, I felt almost at home, being amongst, I guess, my people, um, or my kind of people. Uh, but the struggle was actually pretty intense, to be honest with you. I mean, being poor is ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
So, my my parents, they picked up odd jobs and stuff like that. Had us going through school. We had like a really small apartment. I think it was like at the time a two-bedroom apartment. I mean, in this day and age, that's a steal, right? But back then, to raise four kids in a two-bedroom apartment, my parents having one and the rest of the kids actually sharing a single room. Um, you know, we grew up in a very dirty, grimy neighborhood. We had rocks thrown into our windows. Uh, in certain days, one of them actually hit my sister right in the jaw. That was pretty intense, but uh, that doesn't explain, you know, that I guess that was a certain adversity that we had to overcome. Uh, School itself and my older brother and my older sister, um, those three components actually got me into the creative arts. I did a lot of illustrations. I loved poetry, things of that nature. I mean, music was like such an essential part of how I came you know, to do what it is that I do. And it
Yeah.
all originated, from a standpoint of, hey, putting pen to paper or putting pencil to paper and then just creating something, I guess it's I guess it's the act of creating something out of nothing that
Yeah.
that appealed to me so much about what it is that I do now. And that's always stuck with me. So even from, I mean, in third grade, I wanted to be a scientist. In fourth grade, I knew I wanted to be in the arts.
Okay. All right. I dig it. So who's been kind of a hero for you in your life?
My older brother, my older sisters, and I would say the one person that has, you know, turned my life around the most and provided the most positive influence, was my was my what was it? I think fifth or sixth grade teacher. He was my fifth or sixth grade art teacher. His name was Mr. Dakota. I believe his first name is Greg. So
Yeah.
Greg Dakota, shout out to you. Thank you so much. Um, anyway, I mean, he's gonna have to listen to this. I'm gonna have to send him a link or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thank you, Greg. You did wonders for me, and I owe a lot of that to you. Um, and that being said, he was just a very, very positive influence. He took the time. I remember one time, he's not getting paid for this. We'd stay after school. He'd have kids who were passionate about the arts come in, you know, do some side paintings, things that we like doing. And that was something that was never provided to me before, not in my household at least. My parents, all they knew about was work. So having the gift of using my time to do something that I love that was all new to me. And I don't know, I don't know, I don't know if he knew how much that meant to me. So it was after school. We'd go in for like an hour and a half. And he would just stay with us and have us. And it's essentially having a second class, a second art class, really. And then there were times when I was waiting outside and my ride didn't come. I mean, someone was supposed to come pick me up and no one did. He ended up driving me home before he on his way home, and
Yeah.
it was nothing to him. Those were the I mean, I think he was such a major, positive influence in the arts for me, but at the same time, he's also just a very positive human being as well. As a matter of fact, I think you'd be interested in having him on your podcast. He's a
Yeah.
musician.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. We'll swap. We'll get the digits afterwards and figure out how to get in touch. And yeah, that'd be great.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would that be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Uh, Dead or alive.
We can open the door to ghosts. It can be both.
I was gonna say a political figure, and I'd prefer them dead, but
Uh,
no. Dead or alive, if I really wanted to meet anybody, I'd probably say an insufferable 5 minutes with Steve Jobs.
okay. All right. That's
And the
cool.
reason why is because here's the thing. Everybody knows he goes into his tangent. He has something about him where like he seeks perfection. I want the 5 minutes to rub off on me. Where like, I need that type of passion as well.
Yeah.
Um, and the intensity itself, I don't think people really understand genius unless they're in the same room.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe that type of influence will rub off on me like positively.
Yeah.
Um, I find his story very insightful.
Yeah. 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 So what is your inspiration? Speaking of someone like Steve Jobs that is very was very inspired and changed the world. What is that for you every day to get up, to be an entrepreneur, to create, to do the job that you do? What's that inspiration?
I mean, this goes with my advice to people who are seeking, entrepreneurship or, just being able to live your life. I mean, this goes to my advice to anybody that is asking, is to have a passion. Mine is actually golf and family, my daughter, not in that order,
Right.
maybe.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, um, you know, I'm a golf addict. I'm terrible at it. But I grew up loving the arts, loving drawing, loving poetry, having being able to do those on my free time. Um, can you, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're no worries.
Um, no, having being able to do all that during my free time, um, that was something that I thought, hey, you know what? I'm not really working if I'm doing something I absolutely love. Can you please
Yeah.
hold on?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I had not planned for this.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
my babysitter she had to leave like 2 minutes before I jumped on this podcast. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. No,
Here you go,
I
baby.
understand very clearly right now the list of priorities. So it's good. It's good.
so so I grew up um having art as a hobby,
Yeah.
right? I loved doing it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is that, when people say that, if you do the thing you love, you're not really working.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, when I started getting paid to do what it is that I do, it didn't feel like a hobby anymore.
Right.
It really doesn't. It's still work, you know. Someone's telling you what to do, even though you're very good at it, even though you're well crafted, it's still doing something for someone else.
Yeah.
And it's not for your own enjoyment.
Sure.
Um, So for me, if you are able to find something like that, I mean, good for you. That's awesome. That's amazing. For me, even having that type of passion, it still ends up being work.
Yeah.
So my advice and and what gets me up in the morning, number one is this,
Absolutely.
and number two is golf.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
having that type of an addiction is absolutely expensive.
Right. Right.
it's it's ridiculously expensive. So, being able to afford that and being able to go out there and even meet new clients and acquire new clients, that way, I mean, makes golfing even that much better, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
So of all the things that you've done in your life, what are you the proudest of?
That thing right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I figured.
I mean, do you have any children?
Oh yeah, I have one biological and one stepdaughter,
Oh,
biological
great.
son.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
you absolutely know what it is that I'm
Oh,
talking about, and I don't have to explain it to you.
yeah.
But outside of that, I think the one thing that outside of her, the one thing I'm most proud of, I would say, is finally having the guts to go out on my own.
Yeah.
Leaving the corporate structure, um, leaving pretty much leaving pretty much everything that I knew about, um, you know, about about my financial needs.
Yeah.
That before it was wake up 6 o'clock in the morning every single day, commute to work, and come back dead tired. But you know, we have money to pay the bill.
Yeah.
It was a vicious cycle, but at the same time, I grew to like it. I grew comfortable with it. And I think that comfort is what destroys all of us,
Yeah.
you know. Um, Complacency is just so I think complacency is just toxic, especially in an environment where you don't think you fit or belong anymore.
Yep.
Um, and the thing is that that type of complacency confuses you into not even not even being able to realize it or spot it. It wasn't until I got laid off that I finally looked back on my past and I was like, you know what? It sucks being in corporate.
Yeah.
So so and I guess you can say that I it's not essentially gutsy to be out on my own because I got laid off. I didn't really have a choice. But my other option was to, hey, apply and find another job. That would have been K 1.0 about,
Yeah.
6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
That's what happened all my life.
Yeah.
Being out on my own is the new not sending out resumes, not getting not having interviews anymore, and
Yeah.
maybe joining your podcast. That's also something very scary, and I'm kind of proud of too as well. You're my
Absolutely.
first podcast.
Oh, cool, man. I love it. Yeah, that's wonderful.
You
Um,
are. I mean, and thank you for making it so comfortable for me. And
yeah.
I'm so sorry that I have a
No, don't
crybaby.
be sorry. No, no, no. Believe me, I've been doing interviews for so long, and I realize, especially over COVID, any of the things that come in that are external, it's perfect. I love it. It just adds to it, and it just compounds everything that you just said. What's the most important thing to you? And your babysitter left 2 minutes before. You're still doing it. You were hanging out. She's adorable. It's perfect. So I got one last question because I know the energy level of the little ones. Everyone has a perception of UK, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception? Hi, what's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
um, I don't think I'm much of anything, to be honest with you. Um, I I mean, aside from work, play, and this little girl, I just think, all right, my perception is that I'm proud to be a dad
Yeah,
and I'm proud to be a loving husband. And I think I'd like to think that I'm a easy person to work with. Um, it's such a distraction. Anyway,
no, it's all good. You're good.
I don't have a much of a perspective about myself, to be honest
Okay.
with you, Joe. I think I'm a very honest person and I'm very patient. Um, and then when
No, I think that's a good answer. Sometimes this question seems as though it's a PhD dissertation, but you got to the essence of it. You totally hit it. So I want to ask you this. If anyone out there wants to reach out, hire you, learn more about you, the good business, where do they go?
I think the best place to spot me is my website, and if not, LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm searchable through LinkedIn as a K-Chan, Kaychan.
Okay.
Or my website is chimeric.com,
Okay.
Chimeric.com. So,
Perfect.
you know, there's that. I mean, honestly, it'll be a good opportunity. I think it's a good opportunity for everyone to at least engage um in advancing their design.
Yeah.
Lots of branding companies and all that stuff, they don't realize that they need all the help that they can get.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been wonderful, man. I'm going to put it all in the show notes. Kay, you're a champ. This is great. I'm so glad this was your first run at it. Your daughter's adorable. I love all the toys. You got such a good vibe. So keep doing the good work, my man. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
I actually worked on those.
I get it. I figured as much. I figured based on Hasbro and what you were saying, I was like, I bet you that's his work. So it's right behind you. It's shining like a trophy. So it's perfect. And I know it's been a long time. My son's 19, but I remember that energy level. So I understand that you're parlaying and she needs it. So we hopped in and out, my man. I appreciate your time. Keep doing the good work.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I had such a pleasure. Thank you for making my first podcast such a gem. I
Absolutely.
really
This is
appreciate it.
100% memorable. Yeah. And thanks for betting on the Chiefs. And I think the Patriots, they're going to get back there.
I will see. Don't
Yeah.
get my hopes up.
Right. No, no one never do that with sports.
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Thank you so much.
See you later. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.